Here are all the final forms in Chainsaw Man. Reze. This was the most useless devil transformation. Reze was a bomb girl hybrid, a living weapon sent to Japan by the Soviet Union to steal Chainsaw Man's heart. She had a transformation that resembled the Fat Man atomic bomb. Like most other hybrid transformations, she had teeth that were always visible and were sharp. She kinda looked like a xenomorph in this form. She was able to transform by pulling a pin on her neck, just like a grenade. This caused an explosion by her head and injuries to her body which were healed after the transformation. She could also just transform by exploding. We first saw this in chapter 44 when she transformed for the first time after kissing Denji. She could also cause explosions at will to attack her enemies. In battle, Reze was even more terrifying. She could also just blow her head off and leave the rest of her body as a decoy to distract her opponents. The decoy could even hold its own head and throw it, with the head acting like a bomb, revealing a transformed Reze. Apart from the ability to detach her head and throw it like a grenade, there wasn't much that she could do. And more importantly, her powers are only useful if the opponent is caught off guard and doesn't know her powers. Once they know and are able to prevent her from using them, she's easily defeated. That's exactly what happened with Makima. She attacked Reze so quickly that she wasn't even able to counterattack. Control Devil. This was the best transformation in the series. Makima was the incarnation of the Control Devil on Earth. She was strong, manipulative enough to control a whole country, and her only goal was to break Denji and bring the true hero of hell, the Chainsaw Man, out of Pochita. Her plans caused some major chaos in the series, and Denji became one with her by eating her out, literally. Then came the Control Devil's next incarnation, technically the latest form of the Control Devil, Nayuta. When she was born, Pochita actually told Denji about the Control Devil's dream. She could only form relationships through fear, but deep down, she always longed for a family. That was the world that she wanted to create. Pochita then told Denji to create that world for her and give her lots of hugs. Nayuta looked like a young girl with dark brown shoulder-length hair and a big bang that fell over her face. She had a small mole under her left eye, and like Makima and Yoru, her eyes were yellow with several red rings inside them. By the time the Academy saga came around, she had grown taller and more mature, though she still looked young. Her hair had grown longer and she wore it in a braid over her shoulder, similar to Makima's style, and yet she still kept that long bang covering her left eye. Nayuta had access to all the powers that Makima had, but it's possible that she wasn't able to use them to their full potential as she was a child. The other major difference was that Nayuta didn't control people as much as Makima did. In the moment where she was separated from Denji by public safety, if it was Makima instead, there would have been a trail of dead bodies. Instead, she chose to save Chainsaw Man, even though there was a lot of risk in doing that. And that probably got her killed. The reason that this was the best transformation was because Nayuta was happy with living a small life. She didn't want to take over the world or even use her powers. She was happy living with Denji and their dogs. Pochita. The only transformation that was so powerful and completely beyond logic. In his regular form, which happened when he was near death, he appeared to be a small orange dog, like Devil, with a chainsaw on top of his head. He also had handles on his body which allowed him to be used like a chainsaw. His tail was like the pull cord of the chainsaw. Pochita's true devil form is similar to Denji's hybrid form, but with some key changes. Unlike Denji, he had horns on his head, and it didn't look like he had eyes. He also had 2 forearms, split at the elbow of each hand, with chainsaws coming from each. He also has another chainsaw coming from the top of his head. He was also massive and was covered in dark armored plates or scales. Around his neck, he wore his own intestine like a twisted scarf or collar, which he could use to carry people or impale them with sheer brute force. One of the most terrifying traits in this form was his amazing speed. He was able to move almost instantly, making it look like he teleported to his opponents. We saw this in his battle against the Hell Devil in chapter 83, when Pochita casually cut the Hell Devil into pieces easily, with the Hell Devil unable to do anything. The other important thing was the ability of Devil Erasure. By consuming another devil, Chainsaw Man was able to cause the name they represented to vanish from public consciousness. Baron Bridge even speculated that it was possible that chainsaws had many uses, but because Pochita kept consuming and erasing the concepts of devils, it left the chainsaw's only use as a cutting down of trees. However, it's completely unknown why Pochita has this power. He's the only devil who can literally erase devils and concepts. But why? How is he the only person who can do this? And is that the real reason why Chainsaw Man is so feared in hell? Denji. This guy got the best deal in the history of Altrasia. Denji was just a regular teenage boy with scruffy blonde hair. Before he became a hybrid, he had sold his right eye as well as multiple other organs, including a testicle and a kidney. He covered his missing eye with an eye patch. After he formed a contract with Pochita, his heart was fused with Pochita, and he had a chainsaw cord in the middle of his chest. He also regained his lost organs and became sort of muscular. If he pulled his chainsaw cord while he had enough blood for a transformation, his head would morph into a demonic mechanical shape, with long jagged fangs and a chainsaw handle on the back. Chainsaws would appear from his forehead, arms, and legs, and he would have the power to retract and extend any of them at will. If he didn't have enough blood, then a chainsaw blade would partially emerge from his face. That's his final form. Of course, one might say that the dark mythic form is Denji's final form. But the truth is that it's not a power unique to Denji. That belongs to Pochita. Even the ability of devil erasure is something that only Pochita can do. And here's the best part. While others had to trade their lifespan or body parts for power, all Pochita ever wanted from Denji was that he lived a good life. Power. Can you hear the Jaws theme music? Power had possessed the corpse of an unknown girl with long blonde hair. She had red and yellow eyes with a cross-shaped pattern, sharp fang teeth, and light red horns sprouting from the top of her head. Whenever she drank too much blood, her horns grew larger and more curved, and another pair would even emerge from the sides of her head. Power's abilities revolved around blood manipulation and raw power. She could heal by consuming blood and had far greater regenerative powers than most devils. The most incredible part though was her ability to resurrect from even the smallest trace of her blood. After her death, she proved that true devils never really die, drinking Pochita's blood to return to life from the tiny amounts of blood that she left behind. But this time she came back to life a lot more powerful, because she devoured a part of Pochita as well. In her blood devil form, she became something straight out of a nightmare. A tall, pale-skinned humanoid with four arms and long, jagged horns, similar to the ones she grew after overfeeding. Her head even resembled a small shark, giving her a look that felt ripped straight out of Jaws. Her ribcage was split open, her intestines coiled up to her neck, and her limbs were painted in blood-red hues that faded into heel-shaped feet. Behind her swayed a cat-like tail. After she came back to life, she saved Denji from Makima and hid him in a dumpster. There she made a contract with him and made him promise to find her and become her friend again. Yoru. You have to live life with the hand you're dealt with. But Yoru said, nah. The war devil Yoru took over half of Asa's body and brain when she was supposed to die. She didn't completely take over the body and left the other half in Asa's control so that she wouldn't be found out by other humans. The major difference between Asa and Yoru was that Yoru had additional facial scars across the center of her face and left cheek. This was the same place Asa's face was slashed by the class president. The other difference was that Yoru's eyes had multiple rings, similar to Makima. Yoru had the special ability to create weapons out of things that she owned. After she lost both her arms, she used this ability to convert the gun devil into her right arm, called the right gun gauntlet. Using this, she was able to fire bullets strong enough to pierce through Chainsaw Man's body. She also used the same ability to create a gauntlet out of the tank devil, called the left tank gauntlet. She was able to use this hand to fire bullets and create any weapon she had created previously. She used this to fight against Pochita. Guangxi. She was probably the strongest hybrid of all time. Guangxi is a famous devil hunter from China called the first devil hunter, as well as a hybrid that has merged with the bow devil. Her regular appearance was a tall woman with cream-colored hair. In her transformed state, her teeth sharpened along her head and transformed into arrows with wide curved horns in the form of a bow on the side of her head. Arrowheads stuck out of her neck, and her forearms had glove-like flesh with bow-shaped attachments. To be honest, she kind of looked like a porcupine. The first time she transformed was in Chapter 67, when there was an ongoing battle between Chainsaw Man and Santa Claus, who had recently gotten Darkness Devil's flesh. She teamed up with Denji to defeat Santa Claus, who had killed some of Guangxi's girlfriends. As soon as she transformed, she attacked a huge number of dolls with her arrows. Later, she attacked Santa Claus as well, firing off powerful arrows that destroyed a huge part of Santa Claus's body. However, Santa Claus could spread her sense of pain across the dolls, so everything Quangxi did barely hurt her. Later in chapter 87, she joined Makima and a group of hybrids who were working together to take down Pochita. They all attacked him together, but they were blown away by his attack, and he wiped them out in a single strike. After that, Pochita attacked Quangxi, sending her flying through a building. His attack left her unable to move. Even Makima admitted that the situation seemed unwinnable. Still, even though she lost, you have to give her props because no other fiend or hybrid had her battle record and lived to tell the tale. Santa Claus is coming to town has a whole different meaning with her. Santa Claus was a global hive mind of perfect doll assassins that looked exactly like regular humans. All of these assassins were controlled by a single individual with the help of the doll devil. Her main body looked like a dark blue-haired woman with green eyes, who had a mole under her eye. She also usually wore a dark skirt and an orange sweater. She had an elaborate plan, part of which was sending Denji to hell, so that she could obtain a piece of the Darkness Devil. After she ate a piece of the Darkness Devil's flesh, she gained multiple arms and limbs. Her legs were made of doll heads. In this new form, she attacked Denji. After trading a few blows with Denji and admiring her new regeneration, Santa Claus sent her enhanced dolls to swarm him. Soon after, Quangxi joined the fight, but Santa had leveled up. Not only could she heal faster, she could spread her pain across dolls. To make things worse, she made the dolls act like real people again, throwing everyone off. Quangxi tried to help Denji, calling the dolls nothing but cheap copies. But Santa kept her busy with relentless attacks that even Quangxi struggled to dodge. Then as it became night, she transformed even more and became larger and even more devilish. She even grew horns like the Darkness Devil. This was when Denji came up with the idea to light himself on fire to fight against Santa Claus, who was weakened by light. As she was being burned alive, Denji destroyed her body by slamming a car into her. However, she claimed that she would come back using her other dolls. This was when Cosmo attacked her telepathically, causing her to understand everything in the universe. This left Santa Claus in a state where her mind was broken, only able to say, Halloween. Aki. His final form was heartbreaking, and also the final result of a gaslighting champion. Aki was a handsome, tall young man with shoulder-length hair that he wore in a top-knot style. He also had blue eyes. He was often dressed in the public safety devil hunter uniform, a suit and a tie. When he was close to death, he approached Makima and told her that he was ready to make a contract with any devil to gain power. She used that opportunity to take complete control of him by manipulating him. Shortly after this, Makima was attacked by the gun devil. Though we don't see what happened, it is clear from the aftermath. Makima whooped the gun devil's ass so hard that it needed a body to inhabit, and Aki's just happened to be nearby. This led to the gun devil taking over Aki's body and turning him into a gun fiend. After the gun devil took over his body, his whole look changed. His hair was let down and dark veins spread across his eyes and forehead. You could even see the barrel and slide of an M1911 sticking right out from between his eyes, with the gun's hammer jutting out the back of his head. To top it off, his left forearm had completely transformed into an M4 rifle. He was stuck in a dream where he believed he was playing in a snowball fight with Denji, but in reality he was on a shooting spree, trying to kill Denji. This might have been because of what Makima did to him earlier. She might have taken control of his mind, as well as to make him see what he was seeing. After several attempts to stop Aki, Denji finally had to kill him. Katana Man. Ignorance usually meant bliss, but for him it was vengeance, cause bro should have thanked Denji instead of trying to kill him. Katana Man was a grandson of the Yakuza boss who was killed by Denji. At some point he merged with the Katana Devil. He was a tall, muscular guy with short black hair, sharp eyes, and noticeable sideburns. When he first appeared, he wore a big leather trench coat over a dark military-style uniform. Around his waist, he had a utility belt with pouches and a scabbard for one of his swords, and his pants and shoes matched the dark tones of his outfit. Later, when he fell under Makima's control, he switched to the standard public safety devil hunter suit and tie. In his hybrid form, Katana Man grew massive katana blades from both of his arms, and his face twisted into something monstrous, skinless, dark, and stretched into a sharp, lipless grin. He also wore a Gakuran-style hat with an emblem on it and a giant katana blade pierced straight through his forehead. with the handle jutting out from the back of his head. His entire motivation as a character came from wanting revenge against Denji for what he did to his grandfather, or not knowing that his grandfather sold his body and soul for the zombie devil to become a freaking zombie, like an idiot. Fake Chainsaw Man. Every masterpiece has its cheap knockoff. The fake Chainsaw Man was the unnamed older brother of the student that Denji chose not to save during his battle against the cockroach devil. He was a young guy with clear colored hair and a bit taller than average. He usually wore an all-black uniform with dark pants, the typical outfit for male students at 4th East High School. When he transformed though, things got a lot more terrifying. His head turned into a demonic mechanical shape with long jagged fangs, kind of like a mix between Denji and Pochita's devil forms. His body became skeletal, and massive chainsaws burst out from his forehead and arms, even longer than Denji's. To top it off, he had a creepy, flesh-like cape that hung over his body, resembling Pochita's intestine scarf, and a ripcord hung from his chest just like Denji's. The first time he appeared was when Fami tried to kill one of her classmates in chapter 196. He was a lot chattier than Denji, and constantly kept talking about delivering justice. However, he was quite powerful and was able to defeat Famine twice, and in a very short time as well. Shortly after that, Fami and the fake Chainsaw Man were attacked by the Death Devil, who ate and then took control of both of them. The Death Devil ordered Famine and the fake Chainsaw Devil to cause terror in the world. As it went on to do this, it met Denji and attacked him. During the fight, fake Chainsaw Man absorbed a bunch of humans to use as a living shield, but Denji cut off its head and tore its body apart, setting the trapped humans free. Class president of Asamitaka's class at 4th East High School was an ordinary looking high school girl. Average height, average build, with short light colored hair held back by a small clip. But behind that normal appearance, she was hiding something dark. She was actually sleeping with Mr. Tanaka, their teacher. And when the class teacher started to look out for Asa, she got jealous. Out of that jealousy, she supposedly made a contract with the Justice Devil, which was actually the Fire Devil. When she transformed, she turned into a massive grotesque creature, a huge blob-like body held up by two enormous hands. Her lower half dangled helplessly beneath it, while multiple copies of her own face twisted and stared from the top. After transforming, she tried to kill Asa, but that was when the War Devil took over her body and revived her. Shortly after that, Asa made a sword out of Mr. Tanaka's spine and killed her. Yuko. They buried her once, but the thing that crawled out of the grave wasn't Yuko anymore. Yuko was a high school student and a member of the Devil Hunter Club along with Asamitaka and Hirofumi Yoshida. She was of average height, just a little shorter than Asa, with short light blonde hair, matching eyes, and a pair of dark glasses that gave her a calm, approachable look. She actually tried to be friends with Asa, and even got rid of the bullying problem. After a conversation where they shared their secrets with each other, Yuko revealed that she had killed her neighbor. She then told her that she was going to take care of the bullying problem and not to go to school the next day. Her contract gave her the ability to transform as well, and she transformed into a thin, giant creature with her brain exposed and tentacles in place of legs. She got into a fight with Yoru, who tried to stop her. In the middle of their fight, members of the Devil Hunter Club appeared and attacked her as well. Yuko ended up killing all of them. Eventually, Asa decided to kill her and used her super strong uniform sword to cut her up into pieces. Fami appeared and resurrected Yuko, but she didn't come back the same. This time she returned as a towering monster, her head still resembling her transformed form, but surrounded by writhing tentacles. She was so massive that her body covered several floors of the school. Later, after a brutal fight with Denji, it seemed that Yuko was defeated, but it wasn't the case. She later showed up at Asa's house and claimed that she had become a devil. In this new form, she still looked somewhat human. Same short blonde hair, same figure, but now thin tendrils ran down her face, covering where her eyes should have been, while leaving her mouth and nose exposed. Her arms had turned into tendrils too, twisting down her legs like a living dress. To hide her unsettling appearance, Yuko wore a hoodie and tried to blend back into the world that no longer accepted her. She said goodbye to Asa and then ran away. Moments after that, she was killed by the fake Chainsaw Man. Unnamed elder of the Chainsaw Man Church. His transformation proved that the Chainsaw Man Church was a scam from the start. This guy was just a regular old man who was a member of the Chainsaw Man Church. He was one of the elders of the church, and probably part of the plan to make Chainsaw Man more powerful. Like every other Chainsaw Man Church follower, he actually made a contract with the Fire Devil. However, unlike the other members of the Chainsaw Man Church, he didn't turn into a pseudo Chainsaw Man. His new form was a disturbing twisted body, two heads stacked on top of each other, both sharing the same warped frame. This proved two things. One was that the elder was not a believer in Chainsaw Man, and two, that he was definitely part of the plan to create fear of Chainsaw Man. His idea of justice was as twisted as his appearance. He believed in fighting fire with fire, and that he would become a devil himself. Unfortunately, he had just transformed into a monster and had none of the powers that devils usually had. Miri Sugo. Some people joined a church to find peace. Miri joined one to start a massacre. Miri was just a regular young man of average height with messy long hair. He usually wore a drawstring hoodie underneath his school uniform. At some point, he merged with the Longsword Devil. When Miri transformed, he took on a terrifying appearance, a look that closely resembled Denji in Katana Man. His head was replaced by a jagged triangular metal visor, with two long swords jutting out backward, almost like a pair of rabbit ears or horns. His teeth turned sharp and uneven, giving him a feral grin. Just like Katana Man, massive swords extended from his arms. During the Public Safety Saga, his arms even had cross guards sticking out from his elbows, though by the time of the Academy Saga, those features were gone. He first appeared in chapter 86 and 87, where he and a bunch of other brainwashed hybrids attacked Denji under Makima's command. Later, he became part of the Chainsaw Man Church. He even tried to recruit Denji into the church by telling him that he could sleep with as many women as he wanted. Later in chapter 143, he planned a massacre at the park where Denji was, but he was attacked by Quangshi. It seemed like he died because Quangshi cut off his head, but he appeared again in chapter 152 with the whip and spear devils to attack Chainsaw Man, but he was easily defeated. Chainsaw Man church followers. Too much love is toxic, and these guys are proof. Several members of the Chainsaw Man Church had a contract that let them transform into partial copies of Chainsaw Man. No one knew if they had a full devil form, but they could grow chainsaws from their heads and arms, just like him. The problem was, once they transformed, they completely lost their minds, turning into mindless zombie-like killers who attacked and devoured anyone nearby. And just like Denji, they could regenerate from almost any injury as long as someone pulled the starter on their chest. Because of that, Public Safety had no choice but to cremate them to make sure they stayed dead. They turned into this fake copy of Chainsaw Man because of the contract they made with the Fire Devil, who they thought was the Justice Devil. The contract stated that they would turn into their symbol of justice, and as cult followers, their symbol of justice has been Chainsaw Man since the start. But what they didn't know was that the Chainsaw Man Church was actually created by Fami, the Death Devil. Barum enlisted people to make contracts with the Fire Devil, and Haruka's role was to attract more people to the cause. Their plan was to help Chainsaw Man by preventing the upcoming Age of Devils that was predicted by Nostradamus. However, they also planned to sacrifice the followers of the church so that Chainsaw Man would become stronger because of public fear. And that became possible because of the followers' love and admiration for Chainsaw Man, and they didn't have a proper way to show it. So they just joined this cult and just gave themselves up. Spear Hybrid. No one knew his name, just the sound of his spear when it tore through flesh. The Spear Hybrid was a tall man with short blonde hair and a bit of stubble on his chin. He wore rectangular glasses that gave him a sharp, calculating look, and he usually kept a cold, unreadable expression. Most of the time, he dressed in a long, double-breasted coat, layered over a sweater and collared shirt, paired with dark pants and shoes. Clean, professional, and intimidating. When he transformed, though, his appearance became far more terrifying. His head turned into a massive spearhead with a mouthful of jagged, razor-sharp teeth. Unlike most other hybrids, his arms were encased in dark metallic armor that matched the tough, weapon-like texture on his head, which means that he probably had a better defense than most of the hybrids. Under Makima's control, he became part of Special Division 5, one of the weapon hybrids created to fight Chainsaw Man. Later, he joined the Chainsaw Man Church alongside Miri, Barum, and the Whip Hybrid. Also later, they showed up near Denji's burning apartment, where Miri and the Spear Hybrid took Fumiko hostage to push Denji into transforming and saving the world. Once Denji gave in, chaos broke out. He fought off Miri and the Whip Hybrid, but was skewered from behind by the Spear Hybrid. This showed that he was powerful enough to pierce even Chainsaw Man. However, that was a big mistake. Denji turned the tables
sliced both of them in half, and even ate part of the spear hybrid to heal up and keep fighting. A whip hybrid. Maybe this devil knew my ex personally. The whip hybrid was a short woman with messy, short-length brown hair and dark circles under her eyes that made her look half asleep and half terrifying. She usually wore a long blazer draped over her shoulders, high-waisted pants, and her signature circular shades. She was also kind of short. When she transformed, her hands turned into writhing, whip-like limbs. Her face became monstrous, with an elongated chin and sharp, exposed teeth similar to Chainsaw Man's. Long whips extended from the back of her neck, moving like hair, while two huge whip arms lashed out in place of her hands. She was a member of Makima's new squad, meant to take down Chainsaw Man. She attacked Pochita along with the rest of the hybrids, but even with all the support, she wasn't able to do anything. At least the spear hybrid managed to land a hit. After Makima's death, the whip hybrid broke free from her control and later became one of the top members of the Chainsaw Man Church. She teamed up with Mary and the spear hybrid. Their plan failed and they got locked up. After they escaped, they went after Denji again. In that battle, Fumiko's team tried to stop Baron, but the whip hybrid ambushed them, mocking Fumiko. Later, when Denji transformed into Chainsaw Man, she and Miri tried to take him down, but were completely overpowered. After watching Denji rip the spear hybrid in half and start eating him, she panicked, attacked, and got her leg sliced off before Denji finished her off. So even though she was a hybrid, she wasn't that strong at all. When it came to true hard battles, she was all talk and no walk, just like my ex. All she could do was attack weaker people. But then when she was faced with a strong opponent, she lost her mind and the fight. Baron Bridge. Baron wasn't just playing with fire, he was the fire. Baron Bridge was a tall man with long black hair that he usually kept swept back behind his ears, except for a single strand that fell across his forehead and connected to his right eyebrow. When he served as one of Makima's brainwashed servants, he wore the standard Devil Hunter uniform, clean suit and tie that made him blend with the rest. After joining the Chainsaw Man Church, his look changed. He started tying his hair into a ponytail and switched to a white button-up shirt paired with white pants and black suspenders. He still kept his black tie, but now it was tucked neatly into his shirt pocket, a small trace of his old life. When Baron transformed, his body turned into something truly fearsome. His head became 3 massive fuel tanks, and his neck twisted into a cluster of metal parts. His arms morphed into giant flamethrowers, letting him unleash devastating streams of fire on his enemies. We first saw this side of him when he and the rest of Makima's new squad attacked Pochita. He unleashed a huge amount of fire from his flamethrower, so much that it burned through the building, but Pochita jumped away from the flames only to be attacked by the Whip Devil. Though he appeared again after that, it was in his human form. The interesting thing was that he caused more damage to Denji in his human form than in his hybrid form. Members of the Yakuza. This devil is proof that you should always read the fine print. This was the first problem that Denji had to solve. He was trapped in debt because of his dad, who owed a huge amount of money to the Yakuza. So Denji took over the debt and did everything he could to pay it off, including selling his body parts like one of his eyes and one of his testicles. He also did odd jobs for them, like hunting devils in exchange for money. However, the thing was that the Yakuza were becoming irrelevant in the grand scheme of things because of the devils in the world. And because of this, they ended up making a contract with the zombie. At the very start of the story, several members of the Yakuza made contracts with the zombie devil, but the deal didn't go the way they expected. Instead of gaining power, they were turned into mindless zombies, completely under the devil's control. Gun and Tank Devil. They were easily some of the most feared devils, but they were just there to give a hand. The Gun Devil was a very powerful devil who embodied the concept of guns and firearms. The Tank Devil was a devil who embodied the concept of tanks. Yoru had a very close relationship with both these devils. She considered them both her children, as guns and tanks were both symbols of war and were born from her. Because of this, she had a lot of emotional attachment to both. Initially, she had reservations of using them as weapons against Chainsaw Man, but she eventually gave in when she was attacked by him. Because of her emotional attachment to them, she was able to turn them into powerful weapons, namely the right gun gauntlet and the left tank gauntlet. Yoru had lost her right arm in chapter 148 when she was fighting against Yoshida. She lost her other arm in chapter 175 in a battle against Pochita. This left her in a position where she had no other choice than to turn Gun and Tank Devil into weapons. Beam, the Shark Fiend. I have to stop myself from singing Baby Shark every time I see him on screen. Beam was a shark fiend. a devil hunter from public safety who embodied the fear of sharks. He had the body of a well-built young man, but the entire top half of his head was replaced by a shark's snout and fin. He didn't have visible eyes, just rows of razor-sharp teeth and short, spiky black hair. True to his nature, he didn't bother much with clothing, just a pair of swimming trunks. When Beam partially transformed, his head turned into a massive shark's head with 3 pairs of eyes and an incredible bite force. But in his full transformation, he became something far more monstrous. His entire body turned into a giant shark, complete with several long fins that acted like legs, letting him move with terrifying speed both in and out of the water. He transformed fully in Chapter 49 at Denji's request. Denji's plan was to ride Beam like a horse into battle against Reze and the newly arrived Typhoon Devil. He was able to cut up the Typhoon Devil using this strategy, but we never saw this form again, and we don't really know what he can actually do in this form. Typhoon Devil. We'll never know for sure whether the Typhoon Devil's face changes depending on who's watching. The Typhoon Devil looked like something straight out of a nightmare, a massive humanoid figure surrounded by a swirling storm made entirely of brain matter. The top of its own head was split open, with more of that same pulsing brain tissue connecting right into the storm around it. In Asamitaka's flashback, it had the face of an old man with a thick mustache, which somehow made it even creepier. But when the Typhoon Devil showed up again, it didn't look the same. This time it had the face of a baby. And to make things even weirder, a giant dismembered baby leg was sticking out from the storm that surrounded it. We saw this form in Chapter 49, when Reze was fighting Aki and the Violence Fiend. The Typhoon Devil joined Reze's side in the fight. Shortly after this, Denji joined the fight as well, and completely destroyed the Typhoon Devil. Unfortunately, we never really got to see what the Typhoon Devil was truly capable of. Bat Devil. You'd think getting your head torn off by Chainsaw Man would teach you something. The Bat Devil looked like a giant humanoid bat. Huge wings made from flaps of skin, a mouth full of sharp teeth, and those big round unsettling eyes staring right through you. When he first showed up, he was actually missing an arm, but he grew it back after drinking Denji's blood. When Denji first saw him, he wore a bird cage around his neck with Meowie trapped inside, like some kind of sick accessory. Bat Devil couldn't have met Denji at a worse time. Denji was pumped full of hormones, since Power had promised him that she would let him touch her Cocoa Puffs if he got Meowie back. Bat Devil put up a decent fight, even using its own sonic attacks to deal with Denji. But Denji went on a rampage and murdered the daylights out of the Bat Devil. When the Bat Devil came back later, he didn't quite look the same. His body was more grotesque, with chunks of flesh exposed, his eyes bulging out even more, and his teeth uneven and oversized, like he'd come back wrong on purpose. This time it attacked Asamitaka and Yuko. After a chase, he was about to eat them, but just when he put them into his mouth, the Cockroach Devil was slammed into the building by Denji, and this ended up killing the Bat Devil and saving the 2 girls. Most of these forms are insane, but do you know more than half of them wouldn't have existed if not for that one devil contract made by Denji?